coming up. Now, if you were offered the chance to make substantial savings on your energy bill without having to spend any money up front, you'd do it, wouldn't you? Well, actually, you probably wouldn't. That's the irresistible conclusion from the massively underwhelming number of people who signed up to the government's Green Deal. No less a figure than Nick Clegg described it as one of the most important achievements of any government. But barely 1,000 households have signed up for it, and where the scheme was meant to save households money, it's actually ended up saving them nothing much at all. And as Andy Verity's found out, all the political uncertainty about green levies threatens thousands of jobs.
It was billed as the largest and most ambitious home improvement programme our country has seen since the Second World War, not to mention the most comprehensive energy-saving plan in the world. Deja vu, anyone?
Households up and down the country are facing really high fuel prices. We've got to do something, and what we are doing is highlighting the Green Deal, one of the most ambitious projects that any government has launched in a long, long time.
The Green Deal went live 11 months ago, but it's starting to look like a party no one wants to go to. Amid the fury about bills, households are still blowing £140 a year heating the open air in old, badly insulated houses. So what if they could borrow money to get insulation and make the repayments out of savings on their bill? Enter the Green Deal. What's that? It's a revolutionary programme, according to the government, which lets you do your loft, your wall insulation, your new boiler, and pay nothing for it up front. The rule is that the energy efficiency measures will pay for themselves over 25 years in savings on your bill, so you won't have to pay anything. Sounds like the ideal deal, doesn't it, in these times of high energy bills? So, why have so few people taken it up? Ahead of its launch in January, the government projected that 130,000 Green Deals would get signed this year. The minister responsible, Greg Barker, said back in March that he wouldn't be sleeping if less than 10,000 signed up. But 11 months in, just over 1,000 people have signed up to the scheme, around 1% of what was expected. And of those, just 219 have had the work done.
I think to date this has been a tragic and embarrassing failure. Consumers are crying out for some help with their energy bills, and here is the policy that could deliver it, and yet nobody's taking it up.
What intrigues me about the Green Deal is that although barely 1,000 people have signed up to it, more than 100,000 have had their assessments done. Why aren't they following through? There seems to be some sort of blockage in the Green Deal pipeline. What is it? Mike Walker, himself an energy assessor, thought his cold Victorian walls could use a bit of warming up. He invited a Green Deal assessor to his home and wasn't exactly impressed.
Even with a basic bit of knowledge, you can tell that this is solid brick. It does not contain a cavity.
How?
Because you have a long section of brick and a short section of brick, it means that the bricks are laid like that. So it's solid all the way through, so there is no cavity. Yeah, so following the first assessment, the first recommendation they came up with was, would you like cavity wall insulation? And well, we don't have cavity walls, so I'm sorry. The EPC then showed, yes, they've actually recorded it as cavity walls. And we don't have them.
He got another assessment, and another with a different firm, and another, all of them wrong. After his 6th wrong assessment, he gave up in despair.
The last attempt at the EPC, they failed to pick up on the fact that we've got a wood-burning stove.
An energy assessor missed that?
Yep.
But it's not just incompetent assessors and a complicated process. Research released today shows just how little the Green Deal saves you. Take a typical household dual-fuel bill, £1,400 a year. The insulation would bring your bill down to £1,220. But then the repayments on the loan at 8% interest would bump it right back up to where it was, saving you nothing. If instead the loans were interest-free, the repayments would be far smaller. You'd save £136 a year.
The problem is actually in what consumers are being offered in terms of this product. You can go through the hassle of installing these energy efficiency measures with one of these Green Deal loans that are now provided, and the result is that your bill doesn't go down at all. The reason being that you're making all of these loan repayments, and that negates the bill savings you could achieve. By underwriting the cost of loans, they could slash the interest rate to 0%, which would make bill savings of over £130 available to households.
Energy firms and insulation providers set up a finance company to arrange the loans, with £244 million to lend. So far, it's lent less than £6 million.
Where they are being sold, they're working as intended. People are taking out whole home treatments of their house. They're being able to borrow loans of about £5,000 at an APR of 8%, and the whole thing is working well. We can service the plan, so on and so forth. That bit is working. It's going to take time for it to grow.
Here's the problem with the Green Deal. If you've got equity in your home, you can just top up your mortgage and get a cheaper loan to do the work. If you're poor, you might want it because you can't get a loan elsewhere, but then you're probably eligible for free help. And if you're in the middle, well, you're not going to see much of a saving on your bill anyway. The man who was Energy Secretary when the Green Deal was announced says it was always obvious home buyers needed a much bigger incentive to do their walls and lofts at the moment they bought the house, stamp duty relief. But the Treasury blocked it.
The essential problem has been the Treasury's reluctance, and particularly George Osborne's reluctance, to have any sort of incentive to make it happen. I just don't understand it, because ideologically he's perfectly prepared, for example, to introduce tax relief to help with gas fracking, but he's not prepared to introduce a tax relief, a stamp duty relief, to help with energy saving.
Construction firms that agreed to provide the Green Deal invested heavily ahead of its launch and retrained fitters to do the solid wall insulation the government wanted. Now, with the failure of the Green Deal, one big player, Carillion, had to let 1,000 workers go. And now they face political uncertainty about another insulation scheme, the Energy Company Obligation, or ECO.
Energy companies, in many senses quite understandably, are waiting and seeing what the Chancellor is going to stand up and say in his autumn statement about this. Therefore, they're not looking to commit to any new contracts, to commit to energy efficiency installations in the new year, but we're also now hearing stories of actually companies cancelling existing contracts. So people have been gearing up to deliver for several months now significant numbers of energy efficiency installations that are now being pulled, and people are going to lose their jobs on the back of it.
With parties competing for the bill payers' vote, the government's public doubts about green levies are leading the companies involved to put their plans on hold. They hope the uncertainty will end with the Chancellor's autumn statement. Thousands of jobs depend on it.